Hi and welcome to this week's Life Lessons video. It's great to be back with you all. So this week we're talking all about the secret to getting what you want. I'm breaking down what we believe to be the 3 essential ingredients or components to help you on this path. So David, the question we've had in is, it seems like I keep hitting a brick wall when it comes to achieving in my life. Everything is a struggle and nothing goes my way. Can you help me understand what's going wrong and how can I turn things around? Welcome to our Wu Wei Wisdom Life Lessons series. In each episode, we answer your questions, reveal the powerful life lesson, and offer you lots of practical tips and advice to help you live in balance, harmony, and flow. Okay, David, so I want to break this down now to the 3 essential ingredients to help you get what you want. So the first ingredient, and this is something we talk about in most of our videos, is what we call self-responsibility. Okay, so what do we actually mean by self-responsibility?
Well, it means what it says. It means that you are responsible for your life and no one else. And if you continue to look externally for other people to step in, like a fairy godmother, and to sort out all your problems when they get a bit too much for you, then that is not going to work. Why this is difficult is because of what we call the inner child work. Because quite rightly, when you're from the age of 0 to whatever age, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, 30, you want your parents to come in when things get a little bit tough and a little bit difficult for you and kind of sort it all out. To come in as like the safety valve when things are going wrong and to take it off your hands and sort it all out and give it back to you. But this is not self-responsibility. And once you become to the age of self-responsibility, so what's that age for you?
Comment below.
What would that age be, Because you could say, well, it was a time I left home. It's a time I went to university. It's a time I got married. But we're talking about emotional self-responsibility, slightly different than financial self-responsibility or feeding yourself or clothing yourself. We're talking about the responsibility of your emotions, the responsibility of your thinking, the responsibility of how you deal with your life issues. Yeah. That's what I mean when I say self-responsibility. And as much as you think it would be a nice idea for somebody to float in and to sort it all out for you.
Wave the wand.
Wave the wand, get it all sorted, that you can't be bothered to cope. You want somebody there just to help you. And it would be really nice if somebody did that. Actually, it wouldn't be nice. I would think that would be detrimental. I think this is your life, your mind, and your body, and you should take control.
But David, my kind of inner child is saying, well, it's a bit scary to take self-responsibility. I don't know what I'm doing. And also, it seems like really hard work having to take self-responsibility all the time. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, so 3 things there. It's a bit scary. What's scary? Red light feeling. So the inner child now has created a red light feeling and used that as an excuse not to do the work. And then I think you said, I don't know.
Hard work.
I don't know how I'm going to do it. It's going to be hard work. Well, I'm sorry. It's going to be hard work. Why shouldn't you have some hard work? What is different about you? Why is it that you can't be bothered to do it, but you expect somebody else to come parachuting in and do it for you? Why would you believe that is realistic? So would you do that for somebody else if they can't do it, and then you've got to sort out as what they're doing? And if you do this, you're always relying externally for someone to come in and do it. Yeah. And this is why this is so important. And I think the third one is it's all too much for me. Well, it's all too much for you because you haven't learned how to do it. And this is another important thing, because if you never do it, if you never learn how to do it, how will you ever learn? If somebody keeps coming in and doing it for you, how are you going to ever learn how to control your emotions?
Well, you're dependent on them, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And then it's like you're always spending all your time trying to control them to help you, and that touches on our last video about letting go, stop trying to control other people.
Well, exactly, it becomes, and most of my clients hate this word, but I think it's a really good word, a manipulator.
Yeah.
You become a manipulator because you say, well, I can't be bothered, so let me work hard. See, you're still working hard. Yeah. You're working hard to get them to come and do it, to sort out, to step in when things go past a certain limit. And then you're manipulating, you're giving away all of your power, all of your immense talent, instead of learning how to do it for yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's really important. Self-responsibility for me is one of the greatest spiritual lessons. One of the greatest spiritual lessons I can share with you is to take responsibility for your life, to know, to accept that you're not perfect, to know that it's not bad to get things wrong, to know that when you get things wrong, that's your opportunity to learn, to know that all human beings only learn by making mistakes. Mm-hmm. Everything that you've done, even practical things like driving a car. You didn't jump in the car on the first day and drive it. Mm-hmm. You crashed the gears. You forgot to look in the mirror. You forgot your indicator. But now you drive the car, listen to the radio, talk to your friend, think about something else. And so that's what life is. You have to go over that kind of bumpy beginning to get the experience.
So the red light feeling, if you say, or your inner child says, I feel scared, this feels overwhelming, I don't want to take self-responsibility. Is the origin of that a belief, or the misguided belief that you're not going to be able to cope, that you can't manage, that you're not good enough at doing whatever task it is you're about to set out? So there's two of the core lies, two of the three lies.
I was just going to say, it's one or all three of the leads, right? Remember them? I'm not good enough, I can't cope, I'm unlovable, or I'm unworthy. Mm-hmm. Normally, it's I can't cope. So I can't cope means I can't cope. It's all too much for me. Poor me. I'm whatever. I'm an invalid. I'm an emotional. I need an emotional carer.
Or I've had a bad childhood and now I'm owed as well. That must be. That's quite
entitled.
A big thing. Yeah.
It is. I'm entitled. It's not fair. This is I can't cope. How many times have you said to yourself, it's not fair, this isn't fair, I deserve something back, look at the bad childhood I've had, look at the dysfunctional family, look at all the things that was done and said to me, now I deserve something back. And if you do that, it's never going to work. Or it swings the other way where you say, well, I don't think I should cope. I want somebody just to step in when it gets a bit too much. I think I deserve that. I'm too deserving. I need that emotional carer. That's my partner's job. That's my parents' job. That's my friend's job. When things get tough, they should parachute in and help me to sort it out. And this is when we mean self-responsibility. Just imagine the power that when you sort it out, and if you do make a mistake, learn from that mistake. We're talking about your spiritual development here. Mm. You're not perfect. You don't have to be perfect, but you can try your best and be the best that you can be and show your awesomeness, show that flexibility, show that ability to learn and to grow and to move and to be flexible and to be in your wu way and to flow down that river.
So they're all the kind of upsides of taking self-responsibility, because when we're navigating our own life, we're not having other people navigate it for us, or we're not beholden to other people.
And this is the other thing that's an interesting thing. When you invite other people to come into your life, then you're still not happy, because guess what happens then? They start telling you what you should be doing. Why wouldn't they? Because you've said, I don't know what to do, tell me what to do. And then when they come in and tell you what to do you do it? No, you don't. Because you're stubborn, that's why. And you won't even do it when they come in and say, right, this is what you should be doing. This is the university course you should be doing. This is the person you should be living with. This is how you should be living your life. This is where you should be living. This is the job you should be doing. You've got to live to my standards, my expectations. Then you become the victim, and then you're still unhappy. Yeah. This is a lose-lose situation.
Yeah. But it's like the inner child wants the cake and to eat it. They want it every which way. They want someone to step in and do the controlling and sort everything out for them, but on their terms. You know, it's like it's just not going to happen, really, is it?
But this is the stubbornness of the of your inner child.
So you have to convince the inner child that
you have to do the reparenting. You have to look at the reparenting.
I'll put the link to the reparenting
and
you inner child videos.
You have to speak to the inner child because, of course, your inner child wants everything their way, and they believe that they're owed it and they're entitled because they're a little bit special, aren't they? They're a princess. I had a client like this week who called it. What was it? I told
Disney
you,
princess.
A Disney princess syndrome. DPS. That they believe that they're just this little.
And I think that's a good way of expressing it. It is, because DPS, because they want that Disney world. They want, unless they're re-educated and parented to believe or to understand that is not reality, then they'll continue to believe it. And then the adult part of you is running around like completely frazzled, trying to meet their needs, trying to manipulate other people to rescue you, to save you because you feel you're owed. And it's a nonsense, really.
And the questions you've got to ask yourself when you watch our videos is, I know you're highly intelligent. I know your capabilities. I know you're awesome. But emotionally, who's running your life? And I would say, if you're honest, there's an 8-year-old inside of your mind actually running your life, because everything goes through that filter. Not one thing, everything, relationships, career, your diet, the way you drink, the way you exercise, the way you sleep. Everything goes through that filter of that 8-year-old. And if you do not reparent that 8-year-old, you are not emotionally in control of your life. I'm not talking about your intelligence. I know you're highly intelligent. I know you're determined. I know you're creative. I accept all of these. But that little 8-year-old, he wants things their way. And as Alex says, they want it always, don't they? They want their cake and eat it, we say in the UK. They want their cake and to eat it as well. And they think that everybody should be doing what they think is right.
So it's up to us as the adult, to reparent the child. And before we can do that, we have to convince ourselves as the adult that it's also appropriate for us to take self-responsibility.
Exactly.
And then that trying any other way has never worked.
Exactly. Ask yourself, would you like to be in a situation where you have somebody in control of your life, telling you what to wear, telling you how to cut your hair, telling you what job you should be doing, as where you should be living, who you should be living with, how you should be living, what your beliefs are, what time you go to bed, what time you wake up, but what you eat and drink? Do you really want that? Do you really want to take responsibility? And I think this question was very important. What was the beginning about that? What is it I want in my life?
Yeah.
Can I give you a teaching that I once received? I thought this was a lovely teaching from a Taoist monk. It wasn't me who asked the question. And we was in China and we was having kind of an audience with this very famous Taoist monk. And somebody said to him, what is the most important thing in life? What is the most important thing in life? And he sat quiet for a moment and he looked a little bit up in the air and he looked at it and he says, Imagine you're on your deathbed and you know you've got 15 seconds left of this life to live. What would you think about? And that's the most important thing in your life. Now ask yourself, would you think about your salary? What would you think about in those 15 seconds? What's important for you? And you've got to readjust your mind. Don't let your mind run away with what's important for me is I've got to lose 10 pounds. That's the most important for me. I've got to have another job. I've got to have another this. I've got to have a partner. I've got to have this. I've got to have that. Mm-hmm. The mind will go around. Remember, we talk about a pet dog. Yeah. The mind is like a pet dog, wants everything. Take a moment. This is why our teachings are spiritual. What is the most important thing in your life? Those last 15 seconds, when you review your life, what will you review? And that's the most important thing. And readjust your thinking so that side of you that we call Shen, your spirituality, takes control of your life. And you're working towards what's most important for you.
And David, that takes us very neatly onto what we believe is the second essential ingredient of getting what you want, and that is intention. Mm-hmm. So having this clarity as to what is important in your life and then focusing on that. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what we call intention?
Yeah, the Chinese call it Yi, Y-I. And they have a lovely saying, Yi Dao, Qi Dao. So Yi, intention, your direction of travel. What's your plan? What's the most important thing in your life? The most important thing. Of course, we want a good job. Of course, we want to live in a good house. Of course, we want to have great friends. Of course, I'm talking the most important thing. Yi Dao. Dao means the flow, the path. The flow of your intention, Qi energy, life force, follows that flow. This is the law of attraction. Your intention guides the law of attraction, because if your intention is like a scattergun, 1 minute you want this, 1 minute you want that, 1 minute you want to live there, 1 minute you want this job, then you want this, then you don't want this. Guess what you attract? You attract more confusion. Bring the intention down to a much stronger level about what's important in your life. How do you value yourself? What is your integrity? What is your truth? What is your honesty? What do you believe in? Not what other people believe in.
Well, this is, David, that's what I was going to say, because I think for a lot of people, they set their intention and what they want to work towards and how they want to direct their life based on other people's wishes, other people's hopes and dreams for them, other people's beliefs, other people's ideas of what I should be doing with my life. And that's when it all gets messed up, because if it's not authentic to you, if it might be authentic to your parent or your peers or, the people you read about in the magazines or see on Instagram, but if it's not authentic to you, it doesn't matter how capable you are of achieving that particular intention, you're still going to end up feeling lots of red light feelings, unhappy, dissatisfied, empty. We get a lot of people coming to us with this, the idea that they've achieved everything they set out to achieve. A lot of our clients are multimillionaires, but they still haven't got that sense of inner peace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is the problem when you're trying to live to your parents' expectations. As Alex said, it was well said, because they might want you to be a brain surgeon and you don't like medicine at all. And if you're trying to live to other people's expectations, you will never be happy. Because in that 15 seconds, you're going to say, well, the most important thing in my life was to please my parents. The most important thing is to please my partner. The most important thing is to please my best friend. And this is so important. What Alex just said is so important. And this is the problem when you hand control, like we said in the first one, when you give self-responsibility to someone else, then they're controlling your oxygen supply. Remember, we all talk about this life force. They're controlling it, and then you have to spend your life trying to please them. Then what simply happens is you stop living your life. You are now not living to your intention, you're living to theirs. They know what's best for you, and you have to follow their path. You will always be in their footprints, and this is not the spiritual way for you. You are a unique individual, like a snowflake. Why don't you take full responsibility for your life and live to your highest level that you can achieve? It doesn't matter what anybody else does. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about you, as long as you are living so that last 15 seconds you can look back on your life and saying, I did what I wanted to do. This life of mine was worth it. I did what was right and in balance and in harmony for me. And that's the most important thing.
Great. So I think, David, if I spend time getting my intention right, making sure it's my intention, not somebody else's. So I do that kind of preliminary work. What happens if I doubt myself, or I doubt that what I intend to do or achieve, or whatever I intend for my life, I have a lot of self-doubt that it's going to happen? Well,
then you brought in another element now, because you brought in doubt. So what is it about you that you doubt? So a lot of people will say, well, I doubt that I'm going to get it right. Well, you won't get it right. How are you judging right? You've gone back now to saying what other people will say.
Yeah.
If you follow your intention, that road will be flowing and moving.
Yeah.
So you might say, I want to go back to university. I might want to go back to study. I don't want to go back to study. I want to go and do some practical work. I want to go around the world. I want to do this. I want to do that. That's not your end goal. That's just a step on the path. So you can't get it wrong, because if that step is wrong, guess what? You make another step, because you're not worrying about what other people say about you. Remember, what other people say to you is none of your business. This is your journey, and every step you will learn a lesson. So you will only doubt yourself if either you believe that you should get it right first time and you're perfect. You see, this goes back to the core beliefs. David, I should know what I want to do. I should have a purpose. It should be right. It should be what I would want to do, because I have to be perfect. Or I have to do it to please my parents, my partner. And so I can't get it wrong, because I'm more worried about what they're going to say.
Yeah. But David, I've heard what you said. But the thing is, as this person who asked the original question said, you know, evidence has shown me that I may want to have something to happen, and I may work at it, but, you know, it just doesn't work out. So to be honest, I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm a little bit doubting that my intentions are going to come to fruition. So
what she's just done there is put a time limit on it. I think on last week's video, we said the inner child will say, I want it and I want it now.
Yeah.
So if you really want something, say, I don't know, an artist.
I'll put a link to that video.
If you're an artist, then just enjoy being an artist. If you're a writer, enjoy writing. So do it in your spare time. Do it when you've got, join a club. Whatever it is you want to do, you should enjoy doing it. And then the journey becomes the destination. Don't judge yourself on the destination, because we don't know the destination. We don't know what the end result is. What do you think? We know the end result, and this is the control we talked about. You want to be in control. You want to know that you're not going to fail. You want to know that everybody's going to give you a stroke and say, oh, aren't you doing well? I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
You want that validation all of the time, instead of taking responsibility for your journey and enjoying the journey. It's like sitting on a train. Don't focus on getting to the destination. Look out the window, enjoy the journey, work on the train, make the journey part of the destination. And that really is a teaching. And what Alex has just said, if you hear yourself saying that, that's your inner child saying, I want it now. And if I don't get it now, then I'm worried about what other people think. Or I'm not so worried about what other people think. I am my own worst critic.
Yeah.
I judge myself even worse. And when I set myself a target, I have to beat the target. I have to do it better than I thought. And I whip myself until I get it right. And if I doubt myself, that's the whipping of yourself. That's you punishing yourself. For what? For not reaching a target that you've set, and who said that that target is even achievable? Then you say, well, other people have it, you know. And this is where you get into the carousel of despair, going around and around, going round and falling down the hole in the middle.
This carousel of despair, as we call it, I think there's an element of self-fulfilling prophecy here, because if you believe, no matter how well-crafted and authentic your intentions are, how much you're willing to take self-responsibility for those intentions, if you deep down believe that you're not going to be able to get it, you doubt your capabilities, you don't deserve to get these things, then in the past, I guess you always look around for the evidence to prove that things have not worked out. So this person who's asked the question, you know, they've said things have never gone my way, but that might have been things have never gone the way that my inner child explicitly wanted them to go in the timescales that they wanted them to go. And that then has blinkered that person's vision to seeing that actually things have gone a good way, but not the way they expected, not in the time scale. But you'd shut that off. So you only, I guess your inner child or your human-centered mind only looks for the evidence to prove the core belief, which is things aren't going to work out. I don't deserve it. I'm not going to be able to do this. And all the other faulty lies that we tell ourselves.
Exactly. I hear that as almost on every client. When we get down to the 3 lies, I'm not good enough, I can't cope, I'm unlovable, I ask them for evidence. They don't give me evidence of why they're unlovable. They give me the evidence of what happens because they believe they're unlovable, or because they believe they can't cope, or because they believe that they're not good enough. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, as Alex says. It becomes a circular argument. Well, I'm not good enough because I've never reached my achievements. Well, perhaps you've never reached your achievements because you think you're not good enough. Have you ever thought that?
Yeah.
What is the reason why you don't think you're good enough? And they live their life on what the Chinese call the carousel of despair. And it's a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you almost program your thinking. This is one of the, when I work with a client for the first 1 or 2 sessions, it's quite challenging really, because the program of thinking is so rigid, and when somebody comes in and challenges that, it almost goes against the grain, you know, because they're so used to having people agree with them. Oh, well, look what happened. There's proof I'm not good enough. And I'm going, well,
and poor you.
Exactly.
Isn't it bad that things keep going wrong for you?
I'm going, well, that's not proof you're not good enough. That's proof you've got a belief that's not working.
And I guess a lot of people nowadays are talking about this victim mentality. And I'm not talking about victims of serious crimes or disasters. I'm talking about a victim mindset. Believing that the world's against them, basically. Things never go wrong their way. And that very much is self-perpetuating in the way we've talked about.
Because if you think you can't do it, guess what happens?
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, whether you think you can, here comes another great saying, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or you can't, you are right. And if you think you can't, you won't. You won't, because you're fighting yourself. And every step of the way, even if all of the people that love you support you and help you, you're dragging an anchor along with you all of the time. Yeah. Because this little voice inside of your head is telling you,
it's never going to work.
It's never going to work.
We're going to be found
out. Yeah, it's going to all fall down. It's no good building it up because it'll be taken away from you. And that's what we call the inner child, that inner voice. That's what we've got to be working on, because that's not a monster. That's not somebody like a devil. That's a little 8-year-old who hasn't got the tools to deal with it, who's never been taught these lessons that we're trying to pass on and share with you. She or he is not some monster. She's frightened. She's like the Chinese call it like a kernel. They're stuck and they want to be released. They want to have emotional education. They want you to reparent them. Now, they're stubborn. They're not going to accept it straight away. You have to be able to talk with them, be patient, be considerate, answer their questions. When I'm working with clients, that's what mostly I do the first 2-3 sessions is just answering their questions. Nobody's ever sat down with them and listened to them. Have you really sat down and ever listened and talked to that part of your mind, that inner child? Because for most of my clients, they just shut it off. They just ignore it and they carry on and they think that if they shut it off, it's going to go away. It won't go away.
And this is why I suppose in most of your sessions with your clients, even for clients who come for business coaching, you end up doing this deeper work on the core beliefs, the deeper inner child work, because they can have super clarity on their intention with what they want to achieve for their business, their career, families, relationships, lifestyle. But without, if you've got a set of beliefs, core beliefs, or an inner child that is resisting that intention, then it ain't going to happen.
No, because it's like the filter. Yeah. Remember, I sometimes say to my clients, it's like a triangle upside down. It's the point. Everything goes through that point. Or, I've never seen it in real life. I've seen it on television, the dominoes, where you knock the first domino and all of the other ones. You've got to get back to that first domino. And that domino is that part of your mind, the inner voice, the critical voice. You might call it different things. We call it the inner child. And we call it that because it's very much like a child. As Alex said, wants things now, wants things its way, doesn't think it has to work through it, thinks it deserves it, thinks it should come in the way that it wants it to, thinks it's been treated unfairly, thinks it's a bit special, thinks it's a prince or a princess, thinks. And no one's ever sat down to it and talked to it honestly, educated it, brought it through that, because it's normally as a response of something that's happened 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, a difficult, challenging time in their life, a dysfunctional childhood, a dysfunctional experience of personal abuse, emotional, sexual, physical abuse. And what they've done, they've closed down and they've blocked themselves out. And they say things like, it's not fair, I don't deserve it, it'll never work out for me as well, it's all right for other people. Or, what my parents said to me, I'm not good enough, I can't cope. They're right. They're not right. You are amazing. You have to take responsibility for your life, as we've said in this video. You have to go above that teaching. I know it's very strong, but it can be changed. Beliefs are not set in stone. You are changing your beliefs almost daily. And we've got to focus on these deeper core beliefs, because when we change those, the dominoes will flip over.
Great. So, step 1, self-responsibility.
Very important.
This is my job. It's nobody else's.
Absolutely.
Step 2, intention, and making sure that your belief system and your inner child is not fighting against the intention.
Absolutely.
And so, third and finally, step 3, taking action.
Absolutely. Walk the walk. Don't just talk the talk. Don't tell other people what to do and then you don't do it.
I think there is a big misunderstanding with in a lot of the law of attraction work and a lot of intention setting work and a lot of the affirmations work, which says, right, I've got all my ducks lined up. I've set my intentions. I've written out my check for £1 million and put it in my purse. So now I'm just going to sit back and wait for the goods to arrive.
No. And this is why the law of attraction, and as Alex said, we've done a video is on the law.
I'll put a link to it.
Yeah. The law of attraction is you have to walk the walk. Act as though you're doing it. Don't just say it. This is where the difference between believing it and doing it. If you believe it's true, that's how you should be acting. That's how you should be living your life. Don't say, well, I know this is the right thing to do, but I'm not going to do it. I sometimes say to my child when I hear their self-talk and they say really, really negative things about themselves, and I say to them, would you say that to your physical child? And they go, no, of course I wouldn't. Then why are you saying it to yourself? This is where 99% is not good enough. We have to clear 100%. So what you think is what you do. The way you think and what you believe is the way you live. There cannot be a separation there. It's got to be together.
But David, if this idea of acting as if, say, for example, my intention is to live in a fabulous home or to have a really successful career, how do I act as if with those things? Because obviously I can't just up sticks and buy myself a millionaire's mansion.
So if your intention is to have a successful career, you chunk it down and you start to make a plan, an intention of how do I get to that successful career, and you start it now. So say,
and take action on each step.
Action now. So if it's like, well, to be a brain surgeon, I don't know why I'm using that. I need to have qualifications. Then you better start going to university, and then don't say, well, I can't be bothered to go. Oh, I'm too old now. Well, then you won't get to the intention. That's a false intention. You've got to chunk it down and say, that's where I want to go to. Here's where I am now. Here's the path. I know the path will be this way and that way, and I have to be flexible. But this is how I start. And you start with that frame of mind. This is where I'm heading towards. And
so I guess the same would apply, if you're after a big fancy house, think about, well, what are the stages that are required to get that house?
Absolutely.
Or what does that house look like? Go and have a look at houses or break it down. What actions can I take at each stage to maneuver myself towards that end goal, rather than just saying, well, I've cut out some nice pictures from a magazine of the houses I want. Therefore, if I kind of keep that in front of me, the house is going to appear. It's not going to work like that.
No, it's not going to work like that. I'll tell you, in practical terms, this happened to me yesterday with a client. We're talking about relationships. We'd done this work. This was a second session. And I said, right, okay. So now we got you want a good relationship. You want to find a good relationship with a man. Let's think about joining some dating, some online dating. And she looked horrified. She said, oh, no, I can't do that. And I said, why? She said, oh, no, I don't want a picture of me. Oh, it's on the internet and I can't be bothered to add. And well, then what do you expect to happen? Do you expect
people to find you,
to come and knock your door and say, hey, I've just had some message from above saying you're looking for me? You've got to go and meet that halfway. You've got to do the work. If you can't do the work, then how do you expect the universe to line up and bring it to you? Remember that talk about 3 or 4 years ago when I was doing the law of attraction? And a woman put her hand up and she said, oh, I've been following The Secret, I think it's called, the book. And she said, it's never worked for me, David. And I said, okay, well, let's see if we can go through it. And she said, well, here's my check. And she'd written out a check for £1 million. And she said, I carry this check in my handbag all the time, but I haven't got the £1 million yet. And I said, well, how do you expect to get the £1 million? She said, well, I thought it would just arrive.
But that's what some law of attraction teachers are teaching people.
What, somebody's going to walk in with a handful of £1 million and put it in your handbag?
So you have to take realistic action based on a chunking down of the steps. Brilliant.
And you have to start thinking, and it starts, number one, starts with your thoughts. You can't have any space there for doubt or negativity, because if you haven't started on the path. Once you clear that path will then take you to where you want to be. This is the law of attraction.
And also, I think a lot of the time the inner child or the human-centered mind will say, you'll start out with enthusiasm, okay, I've got my intention clear, I've broken it down into steps, I've started to take action, if you're looking for a partner, I've started to go to events or meetings where I'm more likely to meet the partner I'm after. But then the enthusiasm starts to wane because you don't necessarily see immediate results, and you give up. You give up, and you go back to the old way.
Exactly. So the inner child will say, well, we've been to 3 events now, and we haven't met anybody. So let's go back to the familiar. Let's go back to the carousel of despair.
It was never going to work.
It's never going to work.
It's always my fault.
That means you haven't cleared the intention. So the inner child was just quiet. You haven't answered the inner child's question. So the inner child has gone back to saying, I want it, and I want it when I think it should happen. And then when it doesn't happen, then I can pop up again and say, there you are. I told you wasn't good enough. I told you were unlovable. I told you that no one would fancy you. Yeah. So we might as well go back to the carousel and think sorry for ourselves. And this is where you have to do the work. This is why this work is so profound, so life-changing. You've got to change your core beliefs. Remember, if someone's told you this, it is now your core. If somebody told you you're not good enough, you're unlovable, when you believe them, it now becomes your core belief. Don't keep blaming them. It's your core beliefs, and that's what we have to change. That's the work that you and I, when we're working with a client, that's why it can get a bit hairy, because we have to really change those core beliefs. They're really deep. They're not just on the surface. You don't just walk in and say, oh, well, I've changed them now. These are core beliefs that some of my clients have held on for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They say things like, they're ingrained, David. They're a habit. Remember, a habit is only a choice. You can change your core belief. It doesn't take years. It takes finding it, understanding why you want to hold on to it, and then taking responsibility for changing it. Because as we said here, self-responsibility. Every core belief that you have has a knock-on, cause and effect. When you believe something, it has a knock-on. Change that core belief.
Brilliant. Well, I hope you got a lot of value. We've given a lot of teachings there. Self-responsibility, intention, action. Let us know what you think. Please share below your own experiences or try out what we've suggested and let us know how you get on. If you have any questions, as always, also place them below and we'll always answer them for you. So if anybody would like to work with David on anything to do with self-responsibility, intention, inner child work, or how to take action, I will also put a link below to David's one-to-one therapy sessions that he does with clients all over the world by video call. And we look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye-bye.